Iain McKenzie, you've been in the estate agency for over 30 years. You started with Hambro, which was Countrywide.
Yep.
You then set up your own estate agency. You sold it. You went back to Countrywide. You went to work for a franchise people. You were actually the person that helped set up Countrywide and their online offering, which is a completely different subject. And now you're part of the guild. I bet you've got a lot of stories, a lot of ups and downs and learnings that I'd like you to tell me that I can share with the rest of the world so they can learn from you, because there must be a lot of stuff in that head that will be fantastic. So let's roll the clock back. What made you want to be an estate agent?
So picture the scene.
Okay.
I'm the only member of my family without a degree.
Okay.
My father is a professor of psychology. And on the first day of the second year of A-levels, I walked home and said, I've given up school and I'm going to become an estate agent. And I joined as a YTS, which is a youth training scheme. You'll probably remember it.
I can.
Back in the Thatcher era. And it was £27 a week, and I worked for an independent then called Gerald Probert's in Devon. And I fell in...
How did it go down with your dad?
He's talking to me now. No, he was, in fairness, he was very pragmatic about it. He sort of recognised that my skill set wasn't actually in education.
How did he feel?
But he probably felt the same way that I did, which was very nervous but very excited, I should imagine. I don't know, but he's been hopefully he's very proud of me now, so that's the important thing.
Okay, so you started as a YTS.
Yep.
I'm assuming putting stickers on your brochures.
Yeah, and I can remember after 3 months.
Yeah, guys, before digital printing, we had to stick photographs on brochures.
It was we actually had to use pencil, a stencil, and actually write onto them the stencil, the black pen. That's one of my first tasks. So I was doing that, putting up boards, and stuffing and cuffing envelopes. And I can stuff and cuff envelopes faster than anybody still. But there you go. That's another subject. Okay.
So, 17 years old.
Yep.
Wet behind the ears.
Yep.
Started as an estate agent in Devon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Loved it. Fell in love with it. From day one, it was just the job that I felt that was perfect for me. After 3 months, my boss came to me, Gerald Probert came to me and said, "You're taking this Saturday off. You're working too hard."
Why did you love the job?
I loved the interaction with people. I loved the excitement. I loved the fact that every day was different. It served my ego because I was good at it and I was getting praise. And so as a 17-year-old, that was nice. And I could see potential to earn some decent money.
And how did you feel the fact that you kind of 3 months in, you kind of proved to yourself you'd made the right choice?
I didn't feel anything actually because I hadn't fulfilled my potential. So I didn't really.
Okay.
I didn't really.
Right. So 3 months in, you were flying along, and
Yep.
your boss told you to take a Saturday off.
Yep. I went in on that Saturday. He was there. He said, "Right, you see me Monday morning. I've given you a direct instruction. See me Monday morning." And all weekend I was thinking he's going to fire me. And then Monday morning, he sat behind his desk. He opened the drawer, pulled out a set of keys, chucked me the keys. It was a Mark 1 Escort. Said, "I've just promoted you. You've been transferred to Exeter office to work with Roger Wilkinson, who's a fantastic agent and my mentor." And there I was, a 17-year-old driving around in a swanky little Escort.
What year was this?
87.
87. So just before the crash,
Yes.
it was flying estate
It was.
agency.
It was an interesting time.
Yeah, I can remember them well.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were in Exeter. So what happened then?
Yeah, so settled in.
Valuing?
Well, day one of the training course, they actually taught me how to measure a house and how to value. It's really interesting. So even though I was a YTS, day one of training, Gerald Probert taught me that if ever there was a need, I could go and put a house on the market, because they wanted, the whole entire business was about not missing opportunities.
Interesting. Yeah.
So not valuing at first, selling houses, and then started valuing, which obviously I loved. At the age of 19, maybe 20, can't remember quite that far back, I was headhunted by Hambro back in those days, and it was Man & Co. Okay. Sorry to tell you, but it was Man & Co. And it was £500 more on a spoiler on the back of the car, so I went.
There you
go.
So just for those youngsters out there, Hambro was actually the previous name for Countrywide.
It was indeed, yeah. Training was exceptional. I really enjoyed the culture. I worked with a great regional manager called Ray Casling. It was fast paced, it was energetic, and I really enjoyed my time.
So how long? So you're 20 years old.
Yeah.
you were what, branch manager at this point?
No, as negotiator at that time. Neg of the year.
With the spoiler.
With the spoiler. I was neg of the year, transacted more. I think I did about 100 grand that year, which was...
That was a lot of money
That
in
was a
them
lot
days.
of money, yeah. That was commission turnover. I then was promoted to branch manager at 21.
Okay.
I was manager of the year first 3 years consecutively, and for Sidmouth, Exmouth, and then Exeter office. And then at the age of 26, I was poached by Halifax to move from Devon to Hampshire, and I've been there ever since.
Yes.
And I was a regional manager for Halifax Property Services, running branches from Southampton up to Winchester.
So that must have been pretty young to be in your mid-20s and being an area manager for Halifax Property Services.
Yeah, I was one of the youngest in the group, 26 at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that an easy transition to go from branch manager to area manager?
I sort of assumed the principle that if you're good enough, you're old enough. And so I had that in my career. When I was in Sidmouth office, which is a predominantly older population, I was a 20-year-old running the branch, and people would come in and say, "Can I speak to the branch manager, please?" And I'd say, "You're speaking to them." And they would say, "You're just a boy." And I'd say, "I am, but I've got one request. Please will you give me 15 minutes of your time, and if I'm not good enough in 15 minutes, I'll pass you on to my regional manager." And that never happened. So it was just it was just the confidence of my ability.
Yes.
And so that's why in today's world, everyone talks about the snowflake generation. I don't see it that way. I think there's little gems that need to be developed, but that's a different subject. We'll talk about that maybe later. And so at 26, yes, I had people that were reporting into me that were significantly older. It never really bothered me.
Do you think it bothered them?
That's not my problem. Well, that wasn't my problem. That was their problem.
Okay.
Hopefully I was a skilled enough communicator to take that into consideration. But I was never passive. Okay. I was always quite open with my thoughts and process. I believe as a person hugely just in honesty and integrity and being direct.
What did you learn by running multiple branches?
That it's challenging.
Because it's different from being on the ground,
Yeah.
doing the dealer, sorting the team out,
Yeah.
to being arm's length with multiple branches.
Yeah, it is different. So if you ever expect to find a person to be as good as you and to work as hard as you, then you're missing a trick. So the role of a regional manager or a branch manager is not to get a person as good as you are, it's to make them as good as they can be. And so they may be better or they may not be better. But if they're not better, it doesn't matter so long as they're as good as they can be.
What tips would you give to people who are in that area manager role to motivate their team?
Understand what motivates people, understand the pinch points, to understand that work is part of people's lives, but it's not all of their lives.
Okay.
And to think about those things.
So how long were you at the Halifax?
3 years.
Okay, so we're now in our mid-late 20s now.
Yeah, 29.
Okay.
Yeah.
Top of the world, flying along quite nicely?
Yeah, we are doing okay.
Okay.
Yeah, doing okay. Nice house, baby a 3-year-old. Lily was 3 at the time. Yeah.
Okay, so what made the move for you to go and open your own estate agency then?
It's an interesting one. So my business partner, Nick, good friend of mine, he was a mortgage consultant in Exeter when I was a negotiator. And he was a fantastic mortgage consultant. He coincidentally happened to move to Hampshire as well. And we just met up and got into conversation, and we were talking about the corporate identity at that time and how we could do a better job if we did it ourselves.
What year was this that you started?
1999.
1999.
Yeah.
So just at the cusp of just things about taking off in the market.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Good times to open an agency.
With retrospect, yeah, absolutely.
And how did you feel about making the move from a decent area manager's job to opening up an estate agency with no money coming in?
I was pretty nervous. Am I allowed to say I was crapping myself?
Yeah, you can. Say what you like.
So here I am, 29, baby. We had another one on the way.
How did your wife feel about this?
She was very supportive. Yeah, she was very supportive.
I think you do need the wife's support, don't you?
100%. And we were very painstakingly through that process. We sat down with both partners and actually talked about the implication, because a mentor of mine said at the time, "What are you going to do if both babies are crying?" So if you've got babies at home and then your business is a baby, which one do you turn to when they're crying? So we had those conversations before we even started it.
Because that's a big tip there.
It's really important, because you've got to know how
answer?
The answer is individual, isn't it? I can't answer for other people. The answer for me was that if I didn't put food on the table, that baby's going to cry an awful lot more at home. So for me, work was the priority, but trying to get the balance right.
Communicating with the wife.
Correct,
I think we're
absolutely.
all, as men, we're not very good at communicating,
Yeah.
are we? So in 1999,
Yeah.
you basically put your life and soul on the line,
Yeah.
and the mortgage, and
Yeah.
you.
Took out a charge against the house as well. I mean, did all sorts. Yeah.
Okay. So how did that go? How did the start go?
Uh, so in 1999 we were the first agent that had two computers in the front screen.
Ah,
We with
in the window.
Yeah, in the window.
Yeah.
In the window. I went on valuation with a laptop. I had a Sony Macvica digital camera with a 3.5-inch floppy disk that went in the back. So we were
Cutting edge.
We were very
Because this
different.
was just before Rightmove, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it
Or
was.
must it-
It was before Rightmove. Ed Williams came to our office to pitch to me. So it was absolutely before it. So we were right at the leading edge in terms of technology.
Okay. So how long were you in? Did you own your own estate agency for?
So we were market leader within 18 months. We
Wow.
peaked at about 31% market share.
That's
We're
huge.
21, 22 agents at that time.
It's a tough market, Winchester.
It is. Some fantastic agents.
Amazing
and,
agents.
and just another piece of advice for anybody thinking about opening up a business is that we handpicked Winchester because we knew that it was related to the London market. We knew that it was part of the ripple effect in terms of wealth would migrate to it.
Yes.
But we also knew that it was relatively recession proof because if there was a recession, it would hit London first. And actually what happens, everybody migrates outside, they downsize and migrate outside. So we knew that schooling was good, access into London
Yes.
was good, and it was a strong marketplace.
Okay, so you're flying along quite nicely.
Yeah.
So why aren't you still running an estate agency in Winchester?
So I was intelligent enough to listen to the words of a very intelligent man. He was a financier in the city. A year before the crash, he asked me out to value his home. I'd already sold 3 or 4 homes for him. And he said, we're going to hell in the handcart. The Western world is bankrupt. Read these reports, sell your business, sell your home, and put your money in gold. He did exactly that. And I sold his house for him. We sold it at 695. It probably was worth, I don't know, 600, 550, maybe a year or 2 years later.
Yeah.
But, I mean, did really well out of the process. And I listened to him, and I spoke to my business partner and said, let's either sell the business or let's cut back. We've got a load of money in the bank. Let's consolidate. You choose a person, I'll choose a person. Let's consolidate, and we'll ride the storm together. Nick disagreed with me, and so through a very friendly negotiation, I was prepared to put my money where my mouth was, or put his money where my mouth was, and he bought me out.
How did you feel about that?
I was distraught at the time. So it's probably the hardest thing I've ever done. 10 years of my life, pretty much 10 years of my life. Blood, sweat and tears.
On the say-so of a man.
I did a load of research. I did a lot of research. So there's something called the ladder of inference. You probably heard all about it.
No.
I make decisions based upon data and fact, not beliefs, as a person. So I did that when I manage people as well.
Okay.
But I did a load of research into the sector. I knew what was coming, and intuitively I thought it was the right thing to do.
Okay. So what did you do after that?
I went skiing.
Okay.
It was a really strange time because I left in the July.
Okay.
It was the 1st of July. It was actually. The banks crashed about 3 weeks later. The market was horrific, so I was at home, and all of my mates are in the property sector with pulling their hair out. As you can see, I'd already done it, and I had time on my hands, and they didn't. So I was bored out of my brains. It was the worst 6 months of my career.
Okay.
So I did a couple of land transactions, believe it or not, because I know land pretty well. And I went and helped a couple of agents when they were short and did some chats. And then the phone rang, and I had a phone call from some good ex-colleagues of mine, Enfield's Group. They were a franchise business.
Yes.
Rob and Elliot had
Down
left.
in your part of
Yeah.
the world, Winchester, Southampton.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Rob and Elliot had left coincidentally at the same time that I'd sold my interest. And they're fantastic agents, by the way. And the people that were left behind were the investors in the Enfield's Group, but they weren't estate agents, so they asked me to help them. So I did.
Okay. So on a big fat salary and.
No, they couldn't afford to pay me for the first few months, so I did it free. So
Free?
Yes, I did it free. Yeah.
What
And
the hell did you do that for?
so I mentioned earlier that I was the only person in my family without a degree, and so this was the equivalent of me going back to university, because throughout my career I'd had single or small multiple offerings on my CV about from an estate agency perspective, and it gave me the opportunity to go from a single branch operation to multiple branches.
I thought you'd learnt this with the Halifax.
But it was 9 or 10 branches. It wasn't 16, and it wasn't franchising.
Oh, okay. Fair
So
goes.
franchising is a completely different beast.
Yes, it is.
And you know it better than I
Yeah.
do. And so for me, from a CV perspective, it was the right opportunity, the right time to give credibility to my CV in terms of a multiple offering.
Okay, so what did that? How long were you at Enfield's for then?
3 years.
Okay, and what do you think that you learnt there? Just how to run a big franchise operation.
That just because you think yes, I learned process, I learned automation, and technology. I was already quite tech savvy already, but that further enhanced it in terms of multiple branch offering. And I learned that just because you think it's a good idea doesn't mean that other people do. And if they're their own business owner, they don't have to do it.
So you almost had to, as an area manager, your job is this is how it's done. With a franchise, you almost have to sell it.
Yeah.
The concept, and you
Correct.
got greater skills there, did you then?
100%. Yeah.
Good stuff.
So it's creating. So a franchise director is all about leadership. All about leadership. People will follow if they have trust in you.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
It isn't management like area managers. Now, you were there for 3 years. What did you do after that?
So whilst I was there, we became a bit of a nuisance of ourselves in Southampton for all the right reasons, increasing market share and turning over more money, etc. And Countrywide came in for me. Oh. So Bob Scarth phoned me personally, Uncle Bob, and we had a couple of conversations, turned him down a couple of times, which was quite interesting. And then an opportunity came up to be the managing director for Solent region, which was initially 44 branches, Southampton, Portsmouth, Isle of Wight, to run 4 brands in that region. Okay. And I took it.
So what year was this?
That was 2011.
2011.
November the 21st.
So you were in a pretty tough market.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that region was losing money prior to my arrival, and within 12 months I turned it around into profit making.
Okay. So what was you were at Countrywide for 5 years now?
Correct.
This time to 2016. What did you learn in that time?
That you're only as good as your workforce, so you can have all the best ideas. If you haven't got people on the side that are engaged, motivated, then you're undermining. You're kidding yourself effectively. That process makes average people better. I learned that. That's one of the great strengths of corporate world. And that you've got to create belief in your offering. If you want people to follow you, you've got to get them believing in you.